Hey everyone, welcome back to the Board Game Spotlight. Today we're going to look at Rallyman GT from Holy Grail Games. It's for 1 to 6 players, and it plays in about 45 to 60 minutes. So let's take it to the table, and I'm going to tell you about it. We've set up today for a 2-player game of Rallyman GT. So you'll notice we have 2 cards here at the starting track. We have our card dashboard. These are our gear level markers. We have a number of dice, and we've set up the board. It is a modular track system. We've set it up for the beginning scenario. The way Rallyman GT works is that you are going to roll and move your car from the starting space along the track, and the goal of the game is to be the first to finish. Now you can choose the variable length of the game. You can play just 1 lap around the table, 2, 3, 4, however you want to do it. At the end of the game, it's whoever crosses the finish line first after completing that goal. Now, the way this works is that we're going to use these dice in order to move our car along these various sections of the track. There are some stipulations, there is risk involved with this, but let's go ahead and talk about what we have available to us. So here on our card dashboard, you'll notice that we start with 6 black dice, 2 white dice, and 3 orange dice. It also tells us how many warning symbols we need to spin out, and then you check to see what hex tile you're in to determine what happens if you spin out on either asphalt or grass. Over here in our dice pool, we have black gear dice, we have white coast dice, and we have orange brake dice. Now these are the dice that we're going to use to move our car. Now it's very cool with how this works. You're going to take a number of dice and you're going to create a trajectory on the track to show your progress. We're going to start at level 0, so we are in gear level 0, which means in order to start, we have to gear up to level 1. From there, we could play gear level 2. From gear level 2, we could move up to gear level 3, but we need to be careful because there are track risks, there are track stipulations that tell us what we can and cannot do. In this case, we have to enter this specific tile at a 3 speed on gear, but if we were to enter diagonally, we could enter at a 4. Now, when you're moving between tracks, you can only move diagonally. You are not allowed to move orthogonally. So I could not place a 4 there. I would have to place a 4 in a diagonal space or a 4 in a straight line space. So from this 2, if we place the 3 up here, we could place our 4 here, and now we've entered diagonally, which is exactly what this is telling us that we can do. This is the maximum number we're allowed to enter at. However, we can only exit at a 3, so we would have to shift gears or move up in order to not break this rule. So we could coast up to a 4. Now this is important though, because coming around this bend, we can only enter at a 1. So this is not good. We probably don't want to go this high to start out the game. So we could just go like that. So 1, 2, 3, we'll enter at a 3, we'll coast, and then we will finish our turn because we don't want to move any further. We can't play a break dice. The way a break dice works is you place it on top of a die and it lets you skip a gear. So you could go from 3 to 1 or 5 to 3 or 6 to 4, but when you're moving, you're allowed to move 1 step down. So let's go ahead and just finish this turn and I'll explain what would happen. So there are 2 ways that we can finish this movement. We can either go flat out, which is to take all of these dice and roll them. It is a pressure luck aspect of the game, or we can choose 1 at a time to roll these dice. I feel pretty confident that we can pass a flat out, so we're going to gather up. First thing we're gonna do is we're gonna check to see what gear we end in. We're gonna end in gear 3. So we're gonna place our 3 gear label there. We're gonna take all of these dice and we're gonna roll them. Okay, so we did not spin out. That is good. If we had rolled 3 of these warning symbols, we would have spun out. We're also not gaining any warning symbols from any of the tiles. So what we do now, this counts as a success, even though it's a warning. So we go 1, 2, 3, coast, coast. So then we move our car and it is going to take up that space there. Now it's the next player's turn. So they are faced with the exact same situation. They have the opportunity to use the same dice and choose their own trajectory around the path. So there are rules for how you overtake cars. You have to be in the same or higher gear in order to pass a car. You cannot be lower than that gear level. So in order to pass this car, they'd have to be in 3 or higher gear in order to pass this car, but moving into that gear is probably not a good idea with this sharp corner coming up. So what they could do is they could play almost the exact same scenario. They could place a 1, a 2, a 3, and then they could coast and be right alongside this player. Now, this exclamation mark is important because it means that if you enter that space at that level, so if you enter at gear level 4, you're automatically going to gain a warning. So you definitely want to keep an eye on that. This player, though, isn't feeling risky. So they're going to roll one at a time, and they are going to move their car as they roll. So there's one warning, but it is a success. We'll roll again. We passed. So right now we're in gear level 3, and we are doing just fine. Okay, so we are able to successfully pass that, and we are not in any danger. So coming into the next round, this is interesting because it's typically the player that's in the highest gear level, but then it's the player who's furthest along the track. But because we're tied, it's the player that is in the inside of the track. So with this player, they are going to need to shift very quickly from 3 to 1. So the way that works is they go 1 and they put a break dice on there because they are skipping a gear. They're going from 3 down to 1. They have to use a break dice. From there, we're going to be in gear 1. We could then go out into 2, 3, 4, 5. So we could really take this really fast. The way they do this is they would then roll their dice and continue their movement on. So let's see if this works. Okay, so they met it. Now at any time during your turn, you can choose to stop your movement. So if you're at 2 of 3 warnings, like there's 1, if I were to get 2 of these warning symbols like this, then I could stop. I do not want to press my luck any further. I don't want a chance being able to spin out. So I'm actually just going to go ahead and stop there, and I will not roll that dice, and I ended in gear 4. So players are going to continue to do this. They're going to take turns going back and forth, round by round, until a player meets the requirements of being able to finish, right? It's first to finish is the winner. So one thing I failed to mention is that when you go flat out, when you roll all of your dice and you roll them all in one shot, you gain focus tokens. You're going to gain focus tokens for each white and black die that you rolled. So you can use these focus tokens to set yourself up. So if I wanted to continue to move along here on the next round, I could spend 1 focus token for the first die, 2 for the next die, and then a third die would be 3. So it increases by 1 each time you use a focus. So if I did that, I would automatically pass these rolls, and I would be able to move, and I'm still in gear level 4. Let's go ahead and talk about what would happen if you do spin out. Now, spinning out is really bad. The first thing you're going to do if you reach 3 of these warning symbols, the first thing you're going to do is figure out which tile you spun out. Was it a grass terrain type, or was it an asphalt terrain type? Then you're going to check to see what gear you're in. Well, we're in gear 4 at the moment, so if we spun out, we would be at a double damage. What this means is we have to take 2 of these tokens from the bag, and we have to apply these. These symbols mean we get 2 less black dice on our turn. The only way to remove these effects would be to take a pit stop here if we go around the track. Now, if you're playing only a 1-lap race, then you're not going to be able to do that. But if you're playing a 2 or 3-lap race, you'd be able to take a pit stop. So you would either remove your damage or change your tires, or you can do both. It just depends. If you do both, you're going to go to a double 0. If you do one of them, you just go to a single 0. And in this case, because we spun out on a grass terrain at gear 4, we start at a double 0. What this means is that we now are lost 2 turns. And now we have to remove this on our next turn. We place out our 0. And then on our next turn, we would actually get to come back on the track and continue movement. So spinning out is very, very detrimental. You really need to make sure that you're managing your dice and not pressing your luck too much. But again, it's a race, so you really want to be the first to finish. Rallyman GT is a fast, fun, and furious game of dice rolling, dice management, and a little bit of press your luck. The modularity of the board, you can set this track up however you want. We've set it up in the beginning tutorial setup, but you can create your own race tracks. If you're interested to know more about Rallyman GT, take a look at the description below for a link to their Kickstarter campaign. This has been Derek with the Board Game Spotlight, and this has been your preview of Rallyman GT.